Hi everyone, and welcome back to Warrior's Journey. So, in the last episode, I was telling the story of the radiation treatment, and we did the radiation treatment, and everything was pretty well after that. And I was in a good state of mind to start reading and learning about my illness, which I did. And at that point in time, I think I have learned enough. So I read basically everything that I could find on the web, only from trusted sources, of course. I don't read from these untrusted sources. But I was able to learn a good amount of information about my illness or illnesses, hydrocephalus and AVMs, and how to manage and control them. And I joined a few forums online and groups on Facebook to have the support and to get answers for my many questions at that time. But if everything was perfectly normal, I was doing very well, and I was even looking to getting back into work, and I was looking for a job, but I was not fortunate enough to find anything at that time. And other than that, in terms of health issues, I had no health issues. I was perfectly normal and perfectly functioning. The only thing that was a bit odd is that the contradiction between the report from the radiation therapy and the report from my original neurosurgeon. One was saying that the gamma knife was recommended to reduce the risk, and one said that the obliteration rate is 90 to 95%. And everything I read and learned was leaning towards the first opinion, which is that gamma knife cannot treat large AVMs. But I was hopeful anyway. But I think in January or the beginning of February 2016, so 2015 was over and 16 started. And I think mid February or no mid January or beginning of February, I started having these episodes again. It's the same I used to have, and I was able to know that I was having these leaks or microhemorrhages. So I went to the hospital and told them everything, and I told them what I suspect. But they sent me for CT scan, and it didn't show any bleeding. Of course, the bleeding was very small, and it wouldn't show on a CT scan. But the call was made is that this might be only because of the radiation treatment, these pains, and I was sent home. And the pain kept going on. It wasn't getting any better, to be honest. And my father went to my radiation treatment specialist. He was in another city in the radiation treatment center. So he went to him and took the CT scan and told him what was happening with me. And his opinion was that there is nothing wrong. And he gave him some steroids just to help me out. And he told him maybe your son is I don't know how to say this in English, but it's kind of being spoiled, a spoiled kid or something like that. And afterwards, one day, I think it was the 14th or 15th of February, I was up early in the morning for Fajr prayer. It's before sunrise. So we Muslims pray 5 times a day. So I was up for Fajr prayer, and I was in so much pain, to be honest. But while I was praying, I had this unbelievable headache. It was like someone shot me in the head or hit me with a hammer on my head. And luckily I was at the end of my prayer. So I started shaking, and my mom was next to me, and I told her to call. She said, "Do you want me to call the ambulance? Are you okay?" I said, "No, call the ambulance." And we called the ambulance, and why I was taken to the hospital again, and they started checking me and everything, and it was clear that I was having a hemorrhagic stroke, and they sent me in for a CT scan, and it was confirmed that I had a bleeding. It was very minor, but it was a bleeding. So I was immediately transferred to the ICU, and I spent 3 weeks, I think, in the hospital at that time. 2 weeks were in the ICU, first in the intensive care unit, and the second week was in the, I think, in the intermediate care unit, and the last week was in a regular room. So it was 3 weeks, but those 3 weeks were the worst 3 weeks of my life, because I went into a very deep depression. It's because I've done everything in hand. I had the surgery for the shunting, and I did the radiation treatment, but it looks like nothing is improving, and I still get these very painful episodes, and I'm still bleeding. So it's like everything we did for nothing. And my neurosurgeon came to me and told me that I think your AVM is pretty active, and he recommended that I have embolization. Of course, at that point in time, I wasn't in favor of embolization, because of what I read and learned. It doesn't treat large AVMs. But he told me anyway, I will have the neuroradiologist come to your room and have a discussion with you. And it is what happened. So the neuroradiologist came to my room in the intermediate care unit I was at that time, and we had a long discussion about embolization and everything. And in conclusion, I asked him many questions, but I told him in conclusion that I am not in favor of this treatment at the moment. And after I stabilize and get out of the hospital, I will do some more research, and I will come to you with my final decision. And he agreed with me, and that's what we agreed on. And after 3 long weeks in the hospital, I was discharged. I was very tired. I lost a lot of weight. I was 40 something kilograms. That's less than 100 pounds. And I was a bit depressed, but I was luckily on my feet as well. So I spent the next week just reading and studying embolization, and afterwards I decided to go to the neuroradiologist to discuss the embolization, which I have made my decision that I did not want. And I called the neuroradiologist and took an appointment to go visit him and discuss. As I said, I don't want to do embolization, but I wanted to see what he has to say about that. So I went to him, and he opened all my scans and angiograms. And yes, I forgot to mention, I had an angiogram during my hospital stay, so it was pretty fresh. So he opened the scans from my angiogram, and we started looking at them together. And he told me that you have many feeding arteries for your AVM. So as long as you're stable, I wouldn't recommend that you do anything. And in case of emergency, we can have an intervention. But at the moment, my recommendation is that you do not do anything, and that was exactly what I wanted to hear, because I did not want to do any embolizations or anything like that. So what I heard was pretty satisfying for me, and I thanked him, and I decided not to go ahead with the embolization, and I started getting better and getting more fresh, and depression was starting to dissolve, let's say, and I was very much better all that time. And I think I will stop here for this episode, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.